Howdy folks, it's me Kendall, and this is Adventures with Kendall. On this channel we focus on U.S. history, both good and the bad. Well, we're here at Manzanar National Historic Site, the site of a former Japanese internment camp. Some of you may remember our special Lone Pine adventure with Horn Photo and Emmy award-winning producer Jeff Fiello. During that trip, we made a pit stop to Manzanar's historic site to get photos of the area. Well, this video is going to be a little deep dive into the history of the site, while also giving you a tour of what is here to see. Prior to the colonization of what is now the United States, the area of Owens Valley where Manzanar sits was home to the Mono people, who are also known as the Owens Valley Paiute people. They lived along the rivers and creeks that were fed by snowmelt from the eastern slopes of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. During my research of the indigenous population of this area, there were conflicting records on specific tribes. This happens often with records of historically disadvantaged groups. Do you know anything about the indigenous roots of Manzanar? Teach us all about that in the comments. When the settlers arrived within Owens Valley, one of them, John Shepherd, homesteaded 160 acres of 3 miles of land north of Georges Creek in 1864. Through the work and effort of the Owens Valley Paiute workers and laborers, the ranch was expanded to 2,000 acres. In 1905, George Chaffee, an agricultural developer from Southern California, purchased the ranch and subdivided it along with other adjacent ranches and founded the town of Manzanar along the Carson-Colorado Railroad. Meaning apple orchard in Spanish, the town of Manzanar was a shipping point for the surrounding apple orchards in the area and had an operating post office from 1911 to 1914. By 1925, Manzanar was known as one of the best apple and peach districts in California. However, one of the biggest changes within the Owens Valley area was when the city of Los Angeles completed the aqueduct in 1913. By 1920, the city of Los Angeles was buying farm and ranch land from the surrounding communities within the Owens Valley, including Manzanar. If you want to learn more about the LA Aqueduct's impact on Owens Valley, comment down below if you would like to see that. Anyway, without water for irrigation, the holdout ranchers left the area, with the town itself officially being abandoned by 1929. This is where the story of Manzanar takes a sharp turn: World War II and the imprisonment of Japanese Americans. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066. This executive order mandated that all people of Japanese descent living in the United States, even those who are American citizens or born in the U.S., be forcibly removed from their homes and incarcerated. Over 120,000 Japanese Americans left their homes and began their painful journey to camps like Manzanar. This was the case for the Hirahara family out of Watsonville, California, something I touched upon in my video about the Redmond Hirahara House. The Japanese Americans were first sent to assembly centers such as the Fresno Fairgrounds and the old lumberyard in Pinedale, to finally be loaded onto trains headed towards inland internment camps for the duration of the war. When the internees arrived at the Lone Pine Depot, they were loaded up in buses and made their way towards the new internment camp, which was built on the former town site of Manzanar. Now, after being uprooted from their homes and communities, the incarcerated people had to endure primitive and substandard conditions living in the barracks and lack of privacy in certain areas. They had to wait in line for meals, to use latrines, and at the laundry room. However, the internees did what they could to make life feel normal in chaotic circumstances. Across many camps, not just Manzanar, Japanese Americans would organize and work with camp officials to establish camp stores, newspapers, libraries, schools, gardens, and organized entertainment like sports and dances. In the almost 2.5 years that Manzanar was open, there were 541 births and 188 weddings were held within the Manzanar internment camp. Overall, people here had a strong resilience and tried to be upbeat about the whole situation. However, we must remember that this was a military prison camp. Daily life included surveillance by police guards on the ground and on the watchtowers connected to the camp's perimeter fences. If you would like to learn more about what was life like here at Manzanar, there are great books about the subject of the Japanese internment, whether it's Farewell to Manzanar by Jean Wakatsuki Houston, and They Called Us Enemy by actor George Takei, who spent the war years in both Rower and Tule Lake camps as a child. After the war ended, Manzanar was essentially abandoned, but pilgrimages to the site began in 1969, and in 1972, the state of California named Manzanar a California Historical Landmark number 850, with an historical marker placed at the sentry post on April 14, 1973. The site itself, which had been historically owned by the city of Los Angeles, was registered as a Los Angeles Cultural Monument in 1976. On February 1985, Manzanar was designated a National Historical Landmark. And on March 3, 1992, President George H.W. Bush signed the House Resolution 543 into law. This act of Congress established Manzanar Historic Site to provide for the protection and interpretation of the historical, cultural, and natural resources associated with the relocation of Japanese Americans during World War II. 5 years later, the National Park Service acquired 814 acres of land at Manzanar from the city of Los Angeles. It was the first of these internment camps to be designated a National Historic Site. You may have noticed that many of the dates I've mentioned happened long after the camp stopped operating in 1945. Official acknowledgement of the historical injustice often happen long after the harm is done, but still give victims and their families a way to honor their strength and resilience. Now that we've learned the history of Manzanar National Historic Site, we'll now go on a tour to check out what's there to see here, including specific buildings and landmarks related to the history of Manzanar. Starting off at the Visitor Center. The first part of our tour is the Manzanar National Historic Site Visitor Center. This building depicts the entire history of the Manzanar internment camp, as well as other Japanese internment camps for first-time visitors to the area, such as myself. This building was originally used as the high school auditorium, but functioned in many other ways for the high school students living here. Outside of the visitor center are these stones with plaques representing the other Japanese internment camps. On each plaque is the name of the camp, the population number, and the state the camp was located. South of the main high school area was the administration site for the War Relocation Authority. It housed offices, staff quarters, and a prominent traffic circle featuring a large, distinctive, two-trunk Joshua tree. The majority of the tour here is by car as part of an auto tour of the Manzanar site. So we're going to make plenty of stops along the way to show you what's here at this place. And after the visitor center, our first real stop on this auto tour is the Manzanar Fire Department. Within the desert environment of Owens Valley, the fire department was very critical for the safety of the people within the Manzanar internment camp, especially during the hot summers within the Owens Valley. Now, the firefighters were actually volunteers who had no firefighting experience but were eager to learn. The pay rate for the average firefighter was $16 a month, while the fire chiefs made $19 a month. Because of their eagerness to learn about firefighting, they became very good firemen for the internment camp. Now inside the firehouse is one of the two fire engines that were here at Manzanar, a 1944 Ford fire truck. After the war, the Bishop Fire Department purchased the Ford and used it for decades. They expanded the bed and added the ladder in the 1950s. In the 1990s, the National Park Service acquired it. Now over here is an example of a residential barrack that was used here at Manzanar. The total amount of these barracks was 504, all arranged in 36 housing blocks. Within these blocks would contain 14 residential barracks. There would have been 4 individual family apartments and rooms within each barrack. The word apartment is generous, and it's worth noting that many arrived at Manzanar while the camp was still unfinished and under construction. Overcrowding was common, sometimes with a dozen people, often strangers, living in a 20 by 25 square foot apartment. Being within the desert areas of Owens Valley, Manzanar experiences dust and winds that can reach severe levels. To combat this, inmates would cultivate and maintain landscaping around barracks and common areas. By the summer of 1942, Manzanar featured hundreds of gardens, even large community gardens to supplement the mess hall kitchen operations. The most impressive of these gardens, by far, was Merritt Park, which featured elaborate landscaping, a pond, bridges, and a tea house. After Manzanar was deemed a National Historic Site in 1992, archaeological work was done to excavate and restore previous gardens. Basketball was a popular recreation activity amongst the younger generations. It was by no means the only sport. Track, wrestling, touch football, judo, and more were represented across the different blocks. Other popular activities were outdoor movie screenings, musical performances, arts and crafts, and so much more. Basketball was popular, but softball was Manzanar's main sport. Some games would reach crowds of nearly 4,000 spectators. It felt very surreal seeing firsthand the sort of field I read about as a kid in Ken Mochizuki's book, Baseball Saved Us. The laundry and ironing rooms serve more than meets the eye. These multifunctional spaces would offer a wide variety of co-ops, industrial spaces, and markets for the people within the camp. The latrines were public, unpartitioned bathrooms located at the centers of each block. There was little privacy, with only a few feet separating the toilets. Some of the latrines were modified by residents to have partitions and tubs. The mess halls were the key part of life at Manzanar. Each block featured their own cafeteria-style hall, but residents would add decorations such as curtains, murals, and so much more. The mess halls nearly always had lines and crowds, even after the camp's chaotic beginnings with incomplete construction. Food quality was often poor, but community gardens supplemented the provisions provided by the War Relocation Authority. The inmate area of the Manzanar complex was surrounded by a large perimeter fence that featured 5 strands of barbed wire. Watchtowers would employ guards and spotlights for surveillance, but blocks and the residents later engaged in self-government with appointed block managers to address riots, beatings, and other conflicts. Now over here was the site of the medical facilities that were here at the Manzanar Internment Center. The hospital staff, upon its opening, totaled 290 workers, and they were there to provide medical aid to those living within the internment camp. And this included doctors' offices, x-ray, operating rooms, dental clinics, and even a pharmacy. Later, a community hostel was added to house senior citizens and the infirm. All over the hospital ground site, you will find the nails that were used to hold up the building. Now we reach one of the more famous landmarks within the Manzanar internment campsite, the Iratu Monument. This was built in honor of those who had died within the camps. Originally built and dedicated in 1943, it was revitalized in 1969 during the first Manzanar pilgrimage that December, when 150 people were caravanned to the site. Dozens of internees died while being here during World War II. Surrounding the monument are the many graves that still reside here at Manzanar. Now the last thing I will show you is the site of the former town of Manzanar itself. This includes the Wilder Apple Orchard, which represents the many apple orchards that used to be here when this town was a flourishing farming community. There are other remnants of the old Manzanar town site, whether it's small bits and pieces of wiring on the ground, and a couple of larger artifacts related to both the town itself and the John Shepherd homestead. I hope you had a good time learning about Manzanar National Historic Monument. It was a great time learning the story of this place. If you like it, comment and like. Also subscribe and stay tuned for when we go on new adventures. Also, follow us on the social media platforms. We'd be very grateful if you did. But until then, see you later folks, and may your gifts bless the world.